form a multi-purpose district. Could be again, the county service areas or community services districts. Incorporate as a municipality and retain the existing districts. Carpinteria has districts. They have fire protection. Summerlin fire protection district, a sanitary district, and a water district. So there's some examples. Incorporate the municipality as a city and absorb the existing districts. So you would provide a full range of services. You can contract for services such as fire protection and with the county sheriff to provide police protection like the sheriff does in the city of Goleta. So the status quo is to maintain the services that you have now. The Area Planning Commission, the Fire Protection District, Sanitary District, and Water District. And school districts, they would not be impacted by incorporation as a city. Multi-purpose district would be a community services district that would dissolve and include the Montecito Fire Protection District, Montecito Sanitary District, and Montecito Water District. And the CSD would provide the existing services with one elected board of directors and one general manager and one legal counsel. So forming a multi-purpose district, this is where LAFCO gets involved. LAFCO is the agency that would accept an application by 25% of the registered voters to form a community services district and dissolve the existing districts. There's a LAFCO review and approval, or denial for that matter. LAFCO can deny an application to form a community services district. And then there would be an election. There's also a protest hearing that would be held if LAFCO approves the formation of a CSD, as we call it, Community Services District. There would be a protest hearing, and over 50% of the registered voters would terminate, or 25 to 50% would go to an election. And the election would only be within the boundaries of the Community Services District, or in this instance, hypothetically, the community of Montecito. So the election would form the district, and the initial board of directors would be elected as a 5-member board of directors, and it could be the directors of some of the dissolving districts. So there would be an election, and there would be nomination periods that would be held, and the eventual ballot would elect 5 representatives. It would be 4-year terms that could be staggered. The top vote getters could serve for 4 years. Less than the top 5 could get 2-year terms. Now the incorporation of a municipality, retaining the existing districts like Carpinteria. We would also have a directly elected city council, and the city would provide unincorporated services such as land use, police protection, streets, local public parks, if any, and other services. So the districts, the sanitary district, the water district, and the fire district would remain in place, and they would overlap the existing boundaries of the new city, but they would have independently elected board of directors and their own responsibilities. Incorporation as a municipality or a city would absorb the existing districts, directly elect a city council, not 3 districts that have elected officials, but a city council. And they would provide the services that the existing districts currently provide, the independent districts. And they would also be responsible for services such as planning that are now taking place by the county, police protection, public streets and highways, and other services, if any. So the application to form a city would be filed by 25% of the registered voters. The application would come to LAFCO. There's a comprehensive fiscal analysis, a CFA, which you would retain, the new city, proposed city would retain a consulting firm that would do an analysis. There would be a requirement in the analysis that revenue neutrality be an issue that you can't take money from the county without taking the equivalent amount of services from the county. So the net impact on revenues would be a neutrality issue. Election by the voters in the city, create the new city and elect the initial city council. Oops. Skip over. So LAFCO would be required to follow what we call the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, which is the LAFCO Bible, about 300-400 pages of information that you're most welcome to read if you wish. I've read it many times. Incorporation must also be consistent with the spheres of influence, and one of the things that LAFCO does is establish spheres of influence for cities and special districts in the county, and the sphere of influence is an area that will be included in the city boundaries eventually. And there would also be the state controller could also look at LAFCO's request. The state controller would prepare a report that would look at the fiscal analysis and make sure that the incorporation is feasible. And they'd also review the executive officer's report, so I write a report as well and make recommendations. Now, the new city, as I mentioned, has to be revenue neutral on the county between the amount of property tax that would be exchanged, and the two have to be equal. Goleta had a very interesting time in determining revenue neutrality and eventually incorporated as a city, but the county had some long-term revenue transfers to the county that would hold harmless the city and rather the county. So LAFCO could still make the findings that it's feasible, but I don't think you want to do that. If all the agencies, the county and subject agencies agree to transfer money, there's a negative fiscal impact that's adequate to mitigation by tax sharing arrangements such as Goleta, or lump sum payments, or payments over a period of time, or different terms and conditions. So Goleta is making lump sum payments over a period of time. But there are also very interesting financing options for new cities and special districts for that matter. There could be a requirement, LAFCO could say that you need to approve a special tax that requires a 2/3 vote. And that also means that if LAFCO conditions the incorporation of the city on a special tax, that the 2/3, it requires a majority to form a city, but the 2/3 special tax that would make it feasible would need to be approved as well. And that happened recently for a district in Los Olivos where they had a community services district. There was a special tax that required 67%, 66.66% of the votes, and that passed, and so did the formation of the district. It would be similar for a city. And there could also be a requirement for an assessment district. So what we call a Proposition 218 election that could increase the revenues to a new city would need to be approved as part of the formation, the incorporation of the city, that would offset any deficits, but that would be paid by the landowners within the proposed new city, or the landowners, in this case, hypothetically, of the community of Montecito. So these could both be a condition of the formation. So I think that concludes my initial comments. I've gone over the formation of the status quo, which is what you have now, multi-service district, blending the districts into a new city, or keeping the districts independent and forming a city as well. But there are also significant financial impacts involved both with the county and with the community to make sure that revenue neutrality is followed, and that the city has a very good likelihood of succeeding, which is really LAFCO's concern, that we don't like to form districts if they don't have a high probability, or cities if they don't have a high probability of success, and establishing good services to the community residents. So those are my those are my initial comments, and I think we're going to, Mike said we're going to save questions till the end.
Right. Thank you, Paul. That's a good overview, but certainly there are a lot of details in what you covered, and so I'm sure there'll be questions. I even have a couple, and I'll save them for the time being. Dave Mullinex.
Stan, I've been in the car too long today. My name is Dave Mullinex. I'm with the League of California Cities, and just real briefly, the League. Hello? The League of California Cities. We represent all 482 cities in the state. We have an educational component. We have a lobbying component, an advocacy component. On the education side, like this week, we are bringing all the elected officials and staff members from around the state to our annual conference down in Long Beach. What we do at all these conferences is we'll bring in your city attorneys, your city managers, your department heads, your local elected officials, council members, mayors. And we bring them together. We have workshops. We bring them up to speed on what the latest laws are. They get a chance to share their stories and their challenges.